Hey guys, welcome to the Fateless podcast. We are gathered here today to
Oh, we're getting married.
that's right, we're getting married. To
Sweet.
celebrate. We got Dan here from the Fateless team and also brand new to the podcast. I guess Dan hasn't been here in forever, but brand new to the podcast, we've got Sam and we're going to be talking all things what he's doing. So actually Sam, I'll let you do your intro.
Hey, I'm Sam. I'm marketing executive here at Fateless, working alongside Dan and Chloe as we gear up for early access in 2026. I'm working a lot on player acquisition, email, and content around events, that kind of thing.
Awesome,
Awesome.
man. And maybe let's just jump right into like a little bit of your background because I mean you have such an interesting kind of crazy, awesome background. If I'm honest, when I first heard it, I was like, wow, that's really cool. He's gonna be working with us. Let's go. Like, what are we up to? Like, so yeah, maybe give us a little bit of that.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Yeah, so my background's a bit of a mixed match. I've got over 3 years in marketing experience, and that's across a brewery, a live music venue, a live music festival, um, as well as working with like artists on content. I've worked with festivals, publications, that kind of thing, um, up and down the UK, really. So my background kind of is one man solution, and I feel I'm able to bring a lot of fresh perspective to Fateless in terms of how we go forward with our marketing, especially like content at events, that type of thing.
Now you're speaking my language.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So, I mean, something
Already.
might be interesting to talk about to start off with before we dive into marketing and kind of taking the game to market and how we're planning on doing that. Because I know that's one of the main topics that a lot of people have been asking for us to kind of cover. Um, I'd love to just hear more about you. Like, what's your background? What's your interests? What got you into the world of marketing before you started doing it as a career?
Yes, so my background in marketing basically came coming out of uni with a lot of experience, both in education and in
Hmm.
real world sort of working in the video and photo space.
Hmm.
Worked on some TV and YouTube broadcasts back in the day, um, but I felt like my skill set needed to be buffed out with like the marketing side and more like the strategy side of things. And so I managed to land the job at the brewery and live event space that I was at previously. Was with them for 3 years. Really got my like teeth stuck in with email, like ticketing, ads, content creation, even like e-commerce management and fulfillment. I've probably missed a bunch of stuff off of there, but that's kind of like what the main stuff was. Uh,
And in your spare time as well, you've obviously got a quite a big passion for photography and video making and stuff like that. How long have you been into doing that sort of stuff?
so since like school really, so like secondary school in the UK, so like 14, 15, 16 age, I started off like photographing local bands at like local small pub gigs really. Like they were playing to a room of like 10 people and I was like one of them type thing. So, just really like getting used to how to like operate a camera and all that sort of thing. Um and then like quickly from there started to work on the touring circuit, so toured with like a lot of local bands as they like went up and down the UK, that sort of thing. Worked with a couple like fast food chains, like dead randomly. Don't know how I really came into that, but was kind of just figuring that out as I went along. Um, and it's kind of events have always been my like the thread through where everything's kind of
Kind of come
based
back to you.
around.
But hang on.
Yeah,
So
yeah, at its
I
core.
want to like tap in on something I heard earlier. You said you did a bunch of TV. Tell me about that TV stuff.
Yeah, so where I'm based in Lincolnshire, we had a network that aired around the UK, and they did a lot of like local content, and so I was doing like vox pops as they're called, so it's like quick ad hoc interviews, that type of thing, where I'd be sent out to location, I would grab like a couple minutes interview just for like short bits to complement news articles, that type of thing.
And,
Um,
and you would be the camera operator and interviewer, or you'd be camera operator and
yes,
you
it would be like a one man type thing.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Chucked in the
But-
deep end.
yeah, definitely.
Go
But
get it. Good luck.
yeah, and it was very much kind of like off you go. But that's like when you get thrown in at the deep end, and it's with anything, you just learn quicker because you have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, so did that. Done some stuff for as like a runner and just like production assistant on like Fifth Gear, the
Nice.
kind of.
It was
like
a
the
spin-off of Top
Barbara-
Gear, wasn't it? Sort of thing.
Yeah, essentially, and they had a bit of a rivalry back in the day.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I helped on a few bits for their like YouTube channel, that type of thing. I think one of the things had us testing like EV chargers and how like infrequent they were back in like 2017, 2018.
Okay. Okay.
So it was just as that sort of the EV revolution was really starting up. So worked on some stuff like really cool stuff like that.
And now we have
But
automated driving cars and things like
Right.
that. So
Exactly.
exactly
Yeah.
wild.
I don't know if
Um,
you've seen, but Sham was in. Is it a Waymo or
The Waymo, yeah.
Yeah,
in
where
LA.
he was like taking a meeting and he turned the camera around and the car's just driving itself and he sat in the back of it. It's like wild.
Just hanging up, feet up. No, it's Waymo is this is not a commercial for Waymo, but I mean, man, I do love it. Like on those longer drives, and you're just kind of hanging out, and I'm like, I just pull out my laptop, or sit on my phone and mostly work, which so it's like a whole different. I mean, and you can arguably do that in an Uber, right? And a person can do that as well. It just feels a little bit. It feels a little bit more awkward when someone's sitting there and they're like, "Hey, what are you up to?" Second, I'm gonna call,
Yeah.
I'm gonna call or whatever it is, whatever the thing is, it just feels weird. But well, so of those things, what was the most fun, piece of that earlier career? I won't call it earlier career that you really enjoyed.
It's got to be the events side of thing. Like I said, it's kind of stuck with me as I've gone along in my journey. So like I said, started off in really small venues, just doing individual things. And over time, your name starts to build. You shoot this act, and then suddenly you go on tour with them, and they're supporting a bigger act. And then you start to shoot that act, and then it kind of snowballs from there. You get a name for yourself. And especially through like social media, people start seeing those images. And like when it's a bigger act, typically it's a much more engaged like fan base.
Yeah.
So then they start looking out for it, and it just goes from there really. And then like venues start to see your work, and then suddenly they're messaging you being like, "Oh, we'd love to have you shoot this band at this show."
And it's video and images as well, right? And then also like everything, right? Mix?
Yeah, it's a mix. It honestly depends like on what who you're working for normally. Actually, so if you're working for the artist, especially now, it's photo and video that artists want. But back when I was starting out early on, you would typically just be doing photos for the venue because that's all you're allowed to do. Because obviously, like managements have quite a strict like barrier on what content can be taken of their like artists.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's all
so
about image protection.
Once upon a time, many moons ago, before we started this adventure here with the gaming world, I was manager of a nightclub in my early 20s, and we used to host gigs on a Friday night, and the rules that you would have. Because it wasn't necessarily even just the manager or the artist or anything like that. It was like the label that they were signed to. You weren't allowed to record certain things, even if they had a license to play the sound in the at the event. They didn't necessarily have the license to broadcast it on social media and things like that. So you had to sort of jump through so many hoops if you wanted anything recorded. Obviously, with people's likenesses in terms of photos and things like that, that's usually fine, but at the same time there's all sorts of hoops that you have to jump through with legalities and things like that. So but yeah, I guess before we sort of deep dive further down that route, obviously we're a gaming studio. We're building a game, community driven. So one of the key reasons and one of the things that we're really excited about you coming on board with us for is to take part in some of the events and stuff that we're going to be hosting, as well as obviously your skills in just general day-to-day marketing. So having behind the scenes footage, a lot of the sort of telling of the story of Fateless and bringing the community along for the ride is one of the key things that we've been trying to do really since day one. And having somebody able and having the skills and technical expertise that you've got to kind of take that to the next level. What interested you, I guess, when we approached you and said, like, look, we're building this studio, we're trying to tell the story to our community, and we're doing it in a way where we're setting ourselves aside from anybody else in the industry, because nobody has kind of trod the path that we're treading. I guess what interested you about the journey that we're embarking on, and what persuaded you to come over here, I guess.
How do we sucker you into coming over?
Yeah. I was trying to be polite about it, but,
And I think you summed it up quite well. It's that community first approach. It's so different to anything I've seen. Like, I'm a gamer myself, but more of like the larger studios titles. So you don't get that same engagement that Fateless is doing with the community. And like, I know that like we've had chats before I came on board about like all of that, and like you can see it in the content and how like the team interacts with the community in like the Discord and stuff. So it's like that was a big thing, and like being able to document that was something that straight away stood out to me. That I was like, yeah, I want in on this. This will be really cool.
What's like one thing, I guess, when you think about like, you're coming into the team, you've been here for a little bit at this point, but what are some of the things that you want to do that maybe you feel like are new, or are there things, or is it just like, I want to level up the things that we're doing? Like, what's the approach in your mind?
Yeah, I think it's just continuation and taking things up to that next level, especially once like we're doing events, that type of thing, being able to capture those moods and like produce content that we can use elsewhere, not just as like a one and done, but actually level up across the board when we're promoting that kind of thing in future. As well as just like, the challenges of a remote studio. So when we do get together, we grab that content so that we can use it even when, we're all at home working.
Yeah, that's interesting. And like, so we've done a couple of events like as a studio. Usually they're like connected to with other groups, and those are obviously I very much enjoy doing those events and stuff like that. But when you're thinking about like shooting an event, like what are the elements that you're trying to capture? Like what are you thinking like, oh, here's my tick list of I need to get these moments, or are you just like, all right, I'm gonna run around with my camera to these shots, kind of follow the energy? Like what's your approach?
So mentally, kind of speaking from like previous events I've done, typically you want to establish the scene. So it's always like, I like to show scale of like an event. That's always like the key thing. So is it a massive, expo or a gig or something? Well, I want to show how big that is.
Yeah.
And even if it is small scale, like just showing like how important that event is, or like people being engaged, or just having a good time. It's just grabbing those like moment to moment bits that show like the energy, the sort of interest in what's going on, that type of thing. Yeah, and it's just showing that off in a genuine way that actually captures it honestly. Like, that's kind of how I've always taken the approach.
So if the event is a huge bummer, you're like, you've got, there's like a guy like sitting there just like kind of sad. You're like, all right, get that guy. Hopefully we don't Tony Bummer event, right? But
one thing that I'm really excited about actually is because obviously we've just come out of Alpha, and one of the big things with Alpha was this competition where we're actually going to be doing the unveiling in Vegas and things like that. But a load of people reached out to us at the time saying, oh, is there some way that the community can get involved? Can we come and kind of be a part of this event? And that's definitely something that we're exploring. We're trying to find ways that, okay, cool. Obviously we can't pay for everybody in the community to come, but if they are able to make their own way there, we'd love to open it up to have more people there. But at the same time, having somebody with your expertise of, you know, covering events and stuff like that there, we can now explore the routes of either live streaming it or even just recording it to have it up on YouTube, so that everyone can feel like they're a part of this journey and a part of the story. Especially because by the time that rolls around, right, the game's going to be out there. People are going to be playing it
live.
So yeah, it's crazy, but yeah, I think that just takes it to the next level. With this connection with our community and everything that we can do to kind of increase that community feeling, I think will pay dividends down the line.
And I think that's a good transition actually to ask a question that's probably, you know, a clarification question for a lot of people. You know, what do you do? What don't you do? And then how do you feel like that's going to change as we transition from, you know, where we're at right now to, oh, by the way, we have a live game now, right? We're live. There's a community that's playing, hopefully a much larger community as we grow and gather more people to be playing. What is that? Yeah, I guess answer those questions.
Yeah. So at the minute it's setting up the systems in place, the strategy, and getting people engaged before we go to launch, so that when launch happens, we have as many people, the community has more people jumping in, we get better data so that we can see where we need to improve, that kind of thing. So as we transition sort of into live ops, it's taking those systems and almost scaling them up and trying to bring more people in through the work that Chloe, our head of socials, will be doing. From my point of view, website content, working on like our SEO.
I can give a little bit of clarity if you want. The term marketing basically covers anything that anybody external hears or knows or experiences with the company.
So quite small, right?
Oh yeah. It's a tiny little portion of what's going on. But it does fall under different categories. So what we've actually done fairly recently, because we do have a very small team, and that's normal at this stage of the business, because at the moment, obviously, we're scaling and we're building the actual product. Once we've got the product ready and we're ready to go to market, what usually happens is we will launch the game. We will have a certain amount of marketing budget that we've allocated for the launch, and then as money starts to come in and we reallocate funds and things like that, we then expand that marketing team to be able to support more players, because not only will the marketing team cover growth, we also cover retention. So we look after the customers or the players in the game. We have to have user support. We have to have billing support, because obviously we're a company which has transactions and things like that. So we have to have people in there who are able to handle customer service. We have tons and tons of questions. We saw it from the alpha. We basically had 5 people working full time, 24 hours a day, just dealing with the questions for alpha. But it's really important to us that our community know that we're there to support them, and we can like kind of unblock them and get them playing. So at the moment, our marketing efforts, I guess, are split into 2 different sections. You've got the community and retention, which is basically handled by our community managers. It's actually headed up by Simon, and his focus is mainly on community sentiment. And then we have the growth side of things, and that's is headed up by myself, but obviously I have Sam and Chloe on my team as well. And our goal is so we've got this amazing core of players who are already within our community. We're about to hopefully hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. We've got nearly 40,000 people on our Discord. We've got 50,000 people signed up, or in fact nearly 60,000 people signed up to test the game. That's like our core audience. And a lot of them, although some people may have come from other sources and stuff like that over the past 2 years, a lot of them have really come from the community we built over at HH Gaming, and then the crossover between other content creators and things like that. Our goal within the growth side of things is to reach outside of that audience. unfortunately, that's extremely difficult to do before you have a product, because nobody cares about who Hellhades is or who HH Gaming is and things like that if they don't play the games that we've covered in the past. They're only going to care about the product that we're building. So at the moment, we're kind of selling the story to them and this journey and the connection. Whereas the plan will be in just a few months' time is to obviously start getting our game out in front of people and getting that product in place. And that's where you've kind of got the two brands working symbiotically at the moment, where you've got Fateless as a studio, which is telling the story. And then you've got what Chloe and Sam have been working on behind the scenes, which is like the Godforge brand. And you guys will start to see out on socials and stuff like that there's more interaction with the social media, specifically of Godforge. And it's creating that dynamic feel that we still are a human studio. We are still have that really important connection with our community. But at the same time, it appeals to people who don't necessarily know us as individuals. They don't know the faces behind the company, and they're specifically interested in connecting with the game. So yeah, I guess Sam can probably give some information of some of the things that we're setting up behind the scenes, so that when we do go to launch, we're ready to start kind of churning out that traction, as well as keeping people engaged at the moment, because that's the most important thing, keeping people interested in this downtime between, we let people play the alpha. Now we've got this period where we almost need to go into dark, because the dev team are trying to actually build and finish the game. And we're just prepping assets in the background, just trying to get everything ready. But also, we don't want to forget that the whole reason we're here is this massive audience that we've built. So we want to keep them engaged and keep them feeling like they're part of the journey. Whilst
keep that hype high, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to think about it. Even yesterday, we were talking about the video this week that Simon wanted to record, and there's tons of stuff that he wants to record and show people.
Yeah.
But when you're doing it on a weekly basis, there's actually not a lot of change on a week by week basis, because these are very slow, polished processes.
Right. So not like fully polished. There's like thousands of files of change, but it's like, but did this thing finish? No,
exactly. So it's like trying to provide enough interest to keep the current audience still, a part of the journey. Right. And at the same time prepping stuff for launch. So I mean, specifically one thing that Sam's been really involved in is streamlining our email process. Sam, I don't know, maybe you want to give a background about like some of the things that we're doing behind the scenes with setting up email campaigns and stuff like that.
Yeah, so at the minute, it's kind of like, as we're gearing up to that launch, it's getting like the brand identity is clearly defined for which information is going out from which sort of angle. Is it a Fateless email or is it a Godforge email? And this is lining up with the social media efforts that me and Chloe have been working on to really set those like tones of voice for each page. Fate, like Dan had alluded to, Fateless is going to become more like, the studio and behind the scenes, whereas Godforge is going to be more about like the community, obviously the game, and player interaction, that sort of thing.
What's Godforge's voice like? Is Godforge kind of like a jerk, or is he like a nice guy, or like a hippie? Like what's Scott, or she could be, what's Godforge? What's the voice like?
It's actually quite a hot topic of conversation between us at the moment, because the voice of the game is very much on par with the narrative of the storytelling, which obviously we haven't actually alluded to.
So really like feeling. I like that.
Yeah. But at the same time with socials, we still want to make sure that we have that feeling of, we're talking to our players and things like that. So it's a tricky one. And yeah, Sam, I don't know if you maybe want to give a bit of background about how we're trying to kind of find an even footing of communication with the audience versus still maintaining that brand guidelines, I guess.
Yeah, so it's about just being like approachable and feeling like it's actually from people and not just like a faceless organization. Not a Fateless, a faceless. You want it to feel like it's coming from the people making the game. rather than just the marketing team saying it on behalf of someone. You want it to very much line up with what Simon's saying in videos and whatnot. If it's too different, then you start to feel like where who is this coming from?
Right.
Whereas it should just feel like it's coming from us, Fateless,
Yeah.
or in the Godforge channel specifically, it's coming from the game, but in an approachable way. Definitely.
It's funny. It's almost a similar issue to like when we think about how we handle the narrative, right? So there's like this. There's a couple elements. There's you come in and you're doing this campaign and you want to be immersed immediately into it, and you want to feel like the characters are speaking, and maybe there's some guidance from like from characters guiding those characters, not necessarily exactly the player or even talking to the player. But then there's this layer of like, well, I need to explain what's happened, like how to make this thing work, what this area does, right? And you don't want to really have that fourth wall broken by a character. You want to have either it just be completely very much, hey, this is a pop-up to explain what is happening here. And so that's what it sounds like you guys are saying. And I guess part of me went to, you want to hear, part of me went to like, oh, hang on, is there going to be like a character that's like reaching out and talking to people that or is it, or it's same, it sounded like more like actually it's coming from us as the but in a slightly different tone. So like what side of it, I guess, or Dan, it's probably more a question for you. Like, what side of that are we kind of leaning towards for Godforge? I'm just interested.
Yeah. So initially with the brand guidelines and the communication that we put together, obviously we worked very closely with the narrative team, and it was actually during the time that we were doing the cinematics and the soundtrack to the game. So that's when we originally launched the Godforge YouTube channel, and we put the audio for the game out there, and obviously the incredible work that Mike, Jerry, and Serena did on the actual cinematic. We had very locked in brand guidelines. I think one of the biggest, I guess, caveats that we've seen to that is obviously we want to have that fixed identity of Godforge, and for people to be able to recognize that, okay, this is a Godforge product. This is very much specifically about the game. But it did start to feel like it was losing that human connection, which I think makes us different to everything else on the market. And we don't want to move so far away from that it loses that connection with the audience. So what we're trying to do is stay true to the brand guidelines that we assigned, so that you have that identity of Godforge, but then just pull it back a little bit slightly and stop taking it so seriously, especially when we're on social media. And Chloe, when she put the strategy together for socials, she made quite a few puns with it's like just chill bro, like sort of thing. It is just socials. Because what we don't want to do is like make it too serious. We want it to, I guess the world of the narrative team are creating in Godforge it has a fairly serious vibe to it. It's a lot more mature, the vibe to it. But at the same time, we are building a video game. It should be fun. It should have this kind of and I guess and this is probably the most important thing for me, is that with anything that we put out there, we're just sharing the passion for what it is that we're creating and what it is that we're building. We're incredibly fortunate to be where we are today, and it is down to the audience that we built over the years that we've even been able to get to here. But we don't want to forget that. We don't want to like lose that childish like kind of the fun factor of we're building a video game, and we set out on day one to build the type of game that we wanted to create. Now we're just sharing that journey. So it's a case of staying true to the brand guidelines, but in a way that it kind of resonates with the people viewing it. You're not reading a book or an encyclopedia or anything like that on social media. You're connecting with a genuine person who's the other end of the line. Yes, they're sharing information about this world and about this game in that way. But hopefully it's in a way that we can still have some fun with it at the same time.
Yeah, and some of that information is going to be mechanical in a sense, right? Here's a code, here's a whatever, come to this thing, do this,
Yeah.
do right. So obviously it has to have that. It has to have a couple things where it has to be, like you said, chill, bro. It's got to be like relaxed and kind of like that vibe that we've kind of always had, right?
Yeah.
And then it's got to have that levity, and I think that's also true of the game in general, right? I mean, it is like heroic fantasy, but it's like the stakes are real. But it's not like, it's not dark. It's like a heavy place, but there is levity in the world, right? I mean, there's, it's a world that's mixed up. There's all these different cultures that have been smushed together. And, when you guys actually see the story of it, it's really cool how those things all tie together. And, that's not for here. I think we'll leave Aaron to kind of spoil those types of things.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of a similar thing, right? Where there's elements where you have to talk about, well, here's the thing you got to do. We want to express, you want to explain to you. And then there's these moments where it's like, hey, this can be like through the voice of a character or something where it feels like, oh, this is thematic, right? I imagine there's some of that, right? I mean, I don't know if we have like a, some games will have, like, I don't want to use Navi because it's such a funny, bad example, right? Hey, listen, but do we have any of that, in our email or in our marketing messaging, I guess, or are we planning on doing some of that type of stuff? Because again, we can do whatever we want. That's one of the sorry, I'll go on a little bit of a sidetrack. I think that's one of the most fun things about being where we are right now. A lot of big companies, they'll come to a position where they have an expectation of, here's your exact path, here's what you have to do, and here's how you have to do those things. And if you don't do those things, well, okay, you're doing it wrong. Where I think a lot of times we're in a position where we're like, well, I didn't know we couldn't do that, so we're just going to do it because it sounds awesome, and I think that people would like it. Like, so yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, as the player in the game and in the world, you are driven through a narrative storyline,
Yep.
and you are spoken to and referred to. I don't honestly know how much of the narrative's been given away, and I obviously don't want to break my own rules of leaking stuff. I'd much rather Aaron kind of give a lot of the backstory to that, but that does tie across obviously into any external communication as well. So when you're a player of the game, you take on a certain role in the world and you are communicated to in a certain way. And that does carry across the social voice, especially for Godforge anyway. And as I said, that's why we're trying to create this fork in the road now. And another main reason for that is because, when we started Fateless, yes, obviously we wanted to create Godforge as our first game. But that's the key point there, is our first game. We're building longevity. We're building ourselves out as a studio. And, the plan will be that we have multiple titles and we establish ourselves really in the industry as a top game studio. We want to build multiple stories either on the same world or exploring different worlds and things like that. But what we want to do is kind of build Godforge to have its own identity, and then Fateless will continue to run alongside, but it will also continue to have this behind the scenes content of what's going on. And that may be working on Godforge, and it absolutely will be. Obviously, we're a live service game. There's going to be tons of stuff happening in the world of Godforge at the same time. But as we then move on as a studio to take some of our artists and we take some of our devs who aren't necessarily needed in the live ops, to start working on whatever the next stage of the company is, that, especially in terms of social media, that communication for the Fateless brand moves off that way. So people are still going to be able to come along for the ride. They're still going to, we're not going to launch the game and suddenly close ourselves off. It's just like, yeah, we're a studio that we've got this game.
Guys, appreciate all the help. Take care.
Exactly. Yeah. If anything, it's the start of the journey, right? And it's just keeping that communication open and just maintaining really for the future, in anything that we do. 5 years down the line, if we're working on launching game 2, we want people to have been as involved in that process as they are with Godforge.
So how do we feel like it's going to be different? I mean, I'm sure your day to day will change, quite a bit, but maybe what are the things you feel like are the inputs that you'll have that are going to change? Maybe you can speak a little bit to that, because you're going to be gathering different kinds of information, understanding what's working and what's not working, what people are resonating with, what they're not. But maybe like what's going to be the difference between now and then that live?
I mean, so one example would be my email efforts. It's just, seeing how well people engage with that type of content, and if it transfers through call to actions that we're putting in those. Do people actually interact with that content? Do they go off and download the game from that? Do they go off and interact with a piece of content? And just, basically continuing to do that now and down the line. And part of that, circling back a little bit to the messaging aspect, it's doing it in a way that promotes longevity rather than just moment to moment. We want to be doing things that is going to work in a year's time from now, in however long amount of time, and just really allowing us to grow once we go to market and develop our own identity. And
do we picture, I mean, I guess one thing that's kind of interesting is, as you said, we've got this amazing community that we're you guys have been following along for the ride for a long time at this point, and it's kind of amazing. And so you're very familiar with us and who we are and what and our story and all that type of stuff. Do you feel like over time that the messaging framework will change, or is it like, no, this is the identity, and we're, what I mean? Like, do you get what I'm asking? Because I think as you do expand, like if you imagine you're in a room with people that and you're talking to them about something cool that you're doing, you talk to them about it in a certain way. But now you're doing a presentation, right? You've got a much bigger audience, right? And maybe that's not the right way to think about it, but I'm interested to hear how you guys think about it, right? You've got this much bigger audience, lots of other people that maybe don't know as much about it. Is the communication style changing, or is it like I'm actually adapting so that it works for both groups? Like, how do you think about that?
I think I can probably give a good insight into it. So I guess, especially with the strategy of how we're kind of gearing things up at the moment, it follows the lines of almost what we're doing internally in terms of the structure of the current team that we've got in place. So you've got two streams. You've got the growth stream and you've got the retention and the community stream. So I think the communication technically doesn't change over time, or the messaging doesn't change over time, because the story is the same. The story is still, we are Fateless. We created Godforge. We did it with the community, and we continue to bring the community along for the ride. That narrative doesn't change. As your audience gets bigger, it in terms of the way that you communicate, I think we will have to evolve within our community. And at the same time, obviously, we've got this amazing backing from this amazing core community. We will not always be their biggest fans. We have to make decisions in the game and things like that. And we're also not perfect. I'm sure at some point we will do something which the community will give backlash for and things like that. But I think as long as we communicate and we're willing to evolve and change it ourselves and keep that messaging like kind of how it's intended, then at least there'll be understanding. I'm sure we won't always be perfect with it, but at the same time, right now we know who our core audience are. And what you do when you're working in marketing is one of the first things you build is like an avatar of like your ideal customer. And this is your based on the data that we have, your average age, your average kind of demographic in terms of where they live. You can really break down very granularly the type of person that's engaged in your audience and the type of person that you want to be putting your messaging out to. As we go to market and we start bringing in external people from kind of outside of our core community, although we've built this game with that community in mind and that kind of demographic in mind, we may actually end up with a different audience that we didn't know or didn't necessarily set out to bring in at the start. So you have to be able to evolve and change your messaging and the way that you communicate and things like that over time. You can also, and this is one of the best things about the way that digital marketing these days, you can actually target individual people with individual messaging. So we can be very dynamic. And this is actually one of the things that Sam hasn't had chance to get involved with yet. But working with people like Mate, with our paid advertising side of things and our paid user acquisition, you actually target very specific demographics, and you change the way that you communicate to make sure that they're seeing the type of messages that they would be looking for, and the type of things that engages with them. It's one of the biggest things. So just recently, everyone in the community will have seen that I put out this tool. Basically, I can't remember what we ended up calling it in the end. But we
won't call it hot or not.
It was the Hero Showdown, right? And the whole reason for that is because we're going up against some of the biggest players not even some of, literally the most profitable and the highest turnover gaming studios in the world. Like, mobile gaming is ridiculous in terms of the budget that people have got for marketing, and we're a small studio, and we're going up against these people, so we have to almost play off every lever that we can possibly have. We don't have the luxury of plowing hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars into experimenting with things that we think might work, but we're not quite sure. So I put this tool out to the community because we're trying to establish what would be a good icon for the App Store. Because believe it or not, that is like literally one of the most competitive places that exists. Yeah. You have to have the right icon. And if you have a look, just scroll through the App Store, most icons that people use are actually like not the logo of the game or anything like that. There's a lot of thought that goes into what you should kind of do.
Face, what direction?
Yeah, exactly. Everything. So before we had any of our artists spend time working on a selection of icons, because in the App Store you can A/B test. So what you do is you'll put out, say, 10 different icons, and we'll get analytics back on which ones get the most clicks, which ones get the most view time, which ones people are clicking off of, which ones people are literally just ignoring. But before you even get to that stage where we know which ones we think we're going to A/B test, because we're biased, our opinion is always going to be biased. Because we like certain characters and things like that, but we've got this luxury of having this incredible audience where we just basically put something out to them and say, guys, we're not, we're not going to sugarcoat this. We're literally trying to get your feedback on what images you engage with the most. So we put this cool tool out, basically just go in and click. Unfortunately, I didn't put a message out at the time saying there is no end to this, by the way, guys. So I think the community managers very much quickly came back to me. It's like, yeah, Dan, somebody's been clicking for like 4 hours. And they want to know when it finishes. It's like, okay, right. There is no end to it, but I really appreciate the data that you're giving us, because what that effectively did, and just for total transparency behind the scenes, how that worked is we used the algorithm that people use in professional chess. So every time somebody clicked and chose something, it would give them an ELO rating. So if you play League of Legends and games like that, you would have a matchmaking system which would rank you based on your ELO or your score. And it's quite clever, really, because what it then gave us is an average across all of these and we literally had hundreds of thousands of results. And it gave us a ranking. And yes, I think probably the top 3 were what we were expecting to be. But actually, there was some in the top 5 which we were like, okay, didn't necessarily think that people would engage with those. But now what we can do is we can take those icons and be like, okay, cool, 2D art team, which, our art team is incredible. I can't wait for people to see things like the art book and things like that, which is going to be previewed later this year. But we can now give those to the 2D team, and we don't have to waste our time doing hundreds of different icons. We can literally say, okay, cool, we've got the top 10 icons that we'd really like you to refine and polish before we go and put them out on the App Store. So yeah, yeah, I guess I went on a bit of a tangent there, but it's using the power of the community, um, and the passion that people have for building this game with us. That messaging will never change. That
Yeah.
is the whole like core of Fateless. In terms of Godforge and the way that Godforge communicates with its audience, that has to evolve because it will evolve with that audience and with that player base,
Right.
to allow them to connect with it. I guess was my 20-minute
Yeah,
answer to your short question.
right. It's give the people what they want for
Yeah.
Godforge and for other games that we put out. Like it's like what are people most excited about? What do they engage most with in the game? And then, but Fateless is always just genuine and us. I think that's probably right. The long and short of it. But
Yeah.
I love that. I love that kind of like uh that concept. And shout out to Patrick for putting that tool together so
It's
quickly.
so good. So good.
And
So it was funny actually, the story behind that. So I had the idea of how it might work, and the brief that I gave Patrick was I linked him a clip from the start of The Social Network when Mark Zuckerberg's building the face match, and I was just like, I want this but with our characters. And he just said, sort of, leave it with me. I've got you. I know what you mean. And I woke up the next morning and he sent it to me. I was like, that is exactly what I need. And yeah, so working
that's
with
good in a
somebody,
nutshell, to be honest.
has he been on the podcast yet? Because
He hasn't yet. We should definitely get him
he
on.
needs to. Yeah.
Another very interesting, background and stuff like that. But
Well, there's
also,
a certain project that he's working on right now, which actually could be very appropriate to get him on
yeah.
to talk about. So,
Listen,
Definitely.
I'm not a
Yeah.
spoiler guy. I'm not a spoiler guy.
No,
Like
no,
that's
no,
Simon's not here. You're supposed to be blocking. We don't have anyone to
fair.
spoil. So this is
Fair.
you guys are probably like,
So-
where's
I tell you what, Sham,
Hmm.
as Mr. Events himself, probably the biggest social butterfly that I've ever met in my life. With the launch of the game and taking it to market over the past 2 years, we've attended a lot of events. Obviously, we had our stand at Gamescom last year with Magic Media, which was very cool as well. But as we start to move to actually take the game live and we've got a product and we're starting to promote it out to other people, what are you most interested, or what are you most excited for us as a marketing team delivering for
events wise?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the big thing for me is going to be the ability to actually get the game in someone's hands and be like, this is what we're doing. Like, check out the characters, check out the combat, check out the, like that's going to be like layer one. So there's two kinds of events, I guess, that I'm always most excited about. You kind of talked about this a little bit. There's like the more intimate events where it's like, hey, we're really connecting on an individual basis. There's, up to like maybe a couple hundred people. You can really have a conversation with maybe not every single person, but the vast majority of people. You can have a conversation. Those are really great, right? Those are probably my favorite overall events. Because as you said, social butterfly. I like to talk to people. I want to hear what their story is and that type of stuff. But the other type of event is like a kind of a larger event, right? And I think that what gets me excited for the future is for us to be able to put on larger events, right? To actually like get a larger crew
We're gonna have
together.
a fake con.
Yeah. Exactly. Something like that would be so freaking awesome. And I don't know how far down the line exactly something like this would be. A lot of it's going to depend on so many different factors. But I do think that, I mean, because of the nature of our game, at least this first game, right? And the fact that there's like all these different cultures that are clashing and coming together. I mean, the step beyond that is like, okay, who's dressing up as who? That's what gets me out of bed. I'm like, when can we get to Dragon Con and Gen Con with people, with like a big old group of people wearing the costumes, being some of these characters? That's what gets me most excited about for the I mean, and it's probably not even that far down the line. Like, I don't know if you guys know this about me, but we used to do Dragon Con. I remember years and years ago, maybe I don't even know, forever ago, right? 15 years ago, we all dressed up as League characters, right? And we went in what I would call a pretty huge group. It was like 40 people, and we were all like, took pretty seriously the outfits, and that was like one of my favorite memories of but these events are tens of thousands of people, And so what I would love to see is like a big gathering of people that are hyped about Godforge, that are dressing up as these characters, going to one of these cons, right? Or even better, like you said, like a Fateless con, right? Like our own event where people are coming and celebrating all the cool stuff that they're most interested in, the characters that they're happy about. But yeah, so like in the shorter term, I mean, this event that we're doing, this competition event, this Las Vegas event, is going to be so freaking cool. I mean, like the ideas that we have, and I don't want to like go too far into it because we may go in one direction or another about where that's going to be. But I think us, being with the community has been, we did an event at GDC. That's basically, long and short of it, is like when I can be in a group of people that basically are excited about the work that we've done as Ian, and maybe sometimes even more so, like that's a moment that just like kind of blows your mind, right? Like the GDC event, people coming up to us and talking about like how cool it is that how we're approaching this, right? And that was, again, before pre-product.
Yeah.
That was really cool, and it'll be even cooler when we have post product, right? We not even post, but during product, whatever, live product, when we have people playing the game and then telling us the things that they love about the game. I mean, it's just a moment that, we're all kind of artists in our own ways, right? I'm not someone who's painting the characters or modeling them, but we're putting this thing together, and so someone celebrating the art that you've put out and being passionate about something that you're very excited about. That's the kind of thing. That's what community is, and that's what. But like live event, that's why I love these live events, is being in like a crowd of people that have that energy. Like, oh, there's nothing better, nothing better at all. So yeah, that's how I think about the next stages of our events. But Sam, like, does that track with what sounds cool to you, or like yeah?
Oh god, yeah, and especially like on those smaller scale ones, having a room full of people with that common interest is just like you said, there is no better feeling than everyone being there for
Ride the
one
wave.
shared thing. Like, you are in, and I know we say it plenty of times, but you are in that community. Like, it's ace.
It's no better. Well, and one more thing that I wanted to make sure that we got to, that I think is always an interesting topic to hear people's perspective on, is like when we do make a mistake, right? So we'll end on something like that. When we do make a mistake, you talked about transparency. Like, what are the key things that from a marketing perspective that we feel like we need to make sure that we do or we don't do? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a million different types of mistakes. Let's keep it relatively simple. Like, it's like, hey, we overtuned or undertuned something, and we needed to make a big change in the game that affects users, right? Or players. I guess, Sam, let's send it off to you. I know this is kind of a tough question, and I want to throw it right to the end.
Yeah, totally. I always think the first thing is be transparent and be honest when possible, and address it head on. But there's different ways that you can address that. Sometimes it requires you to be quite direct and to the point, and other times you can almost have fun with it, depending on what the mistake is. Like what the theme we've said before is, it's kind of like holding your hands up and going, we got that wrong, we got that one wrong on this occasion. Here's what we're going to do to fix it, and then you address it, and then everyone kind of laughs, and we move on. Like,
yeah,
let's not.
Wait, so apologize or not apologize?
I mean,
I know, right?
It can go either way, really.
Yeah.
Not to sit on the fence or anything, but I suppose it's situation dependent, really.
And Dan, what do you think?
I mean, I would resonate with most of the things that Sam said there. To be honest, I think we just stay humble. We remember that our community is the reason that we're here. We will make mistakes, absolutely. Like, we have made mistakes, and we just hold our hands up and say, this is what we did. But I think, as well as that, the other thing that I would say that is so important is that we address the issue in a timely manner. We don't just sit on it. That's one of the biggest things that I've seen, personally, that's been one of the biggest frustrations, is that, say if something is seen to be broken, or maybe it's not actually broken, maybe it was intended and it's just been fixed. communicating that with the audience, but also communicating it in a timely fashion. Don't just sit on it for like 2-3 months in silence and hope that it's going to blow over.
Maybe it'll go away if I just don't.
Yeah. I think it's having a mutual respect for the players of your game. And I hope that we will never get to the point. Obviously, I absolutely want to see massive success for us as a company and as a game studio. I want us to grow to a massive audience, but I hope we never forget where we came from, and lose that personal respect for the time that people are putting into the game. Not even people who are spending money. It's people who are taking their time to play and appreciate our games. There is no difference between people who spend in the game to people who play free to play. They're all a part of the ecosystem of the game, and they're all needed for the success of the studio. So I think it's just having that mutual respect that even if people aren't spending in your game, they're spending time, and they're sharing this journey with us.
That's amazing. I think that's the approach that I always hope that a company will have. It's like people know what happened, something went wrong. It need to be addressed. That's maybe the core of it, right? And it's like, and is it addressed and genuine? I think you guys basically covered it. All right. Well, so real quick, I think we're getting close to an hour here at this point. Should we do a quick, tiny little? So we like to ask a couple questions at the end of the at the end of the podcast. You've heard them before, so hopefully you've already kind of thought of it. But if you haven't, it's even more fun. I'll do the quick softball one. What's your favorite game that you ever played? Favorite game ever?
Ever played? I mean, probably two that comes to mind. Skyrim. I've played it multiple times, going through the different factions and the different like characters. At the minute, my girlfriend is playing through it, and every time it gets to a boss fight, controller comes my way, and I have to take over. And then a classic that comes to mind is Pokemon Emerald.
Ooh,
from
nice.
childhood.
Specifically Emerald. Okay, nice. Pokemon Emerald was very, very good.
For some reason, just in childhood, that specific iteration of like the home region and the starters, and just like that progression all the way up to the Elite Four, stuck with me.
There's something special about that. Yeah. All right, and then the final and most important question. Okay, so you Godforge, gods, myths, and legends across different mythologies. You know what we're making. If you I think you probably know most, if not all, the characters that we have. What character would you love to see in the game that maybe we don't already have, kind of slated for release?
Oh, I was going to say that's a good question.
Yeah.
Oh, Dan, what's yours? I need to have a quick think because literally,
I think probably my favorite characters. It's difficult because I genuinely enjoyed specific characters from the alpha, who are already like kind of in there and out. I think trying to think of somebody who isn't necessarily already in. I'm very much into like the Norse mythology and things like that. I've always thought that that's very cool. And then obviously the crossovers between like Asgard and Marvel. However, as somebody from the UK and things like that, I was very excited when I saw that we were putting King Arthur and some of the knights and things like that into the game. Yes. So I'm yet to actually like get to play King Arthur.
We didn't have him in the alpha. That's right.
No, he wasn't in the alpha. However, as somebody who, and again relating back to my answer to the question, favorite game of all time is World of Warcraft. I literally always played tanks. And the size of Arthur's shield is just like this is just my I guess my type of character that I would play in the game. So the one that I'm most excited for is going to be Arthur, and it's one that even I have not had chance to actually play in the game. So we'll see him at some point soon.
He's coming.
Yeah.
And Sam, did you figure something out?
I think for me it's going to be Medusa. It just reminded me because I had the video up from yesterday that Simon put out. Actually, Medusa's always stood out to me in terms of that mythology. The design, the snakes, everything is so cool.
The new snake designs look so good as well. The art team have been knocking that out of the park on the
and some real polish on like the facial stuff. Like, oh my gosh, like she looks freaking awesome. But so I'll throw one in that I think people will get excited about, like, and maybe this will kind of spark some creativity, some interests. I would love to see Demon Slayer as a crossover. Now this sounds like because there's a bunch of different directions we can go here.
The anime.
I
mean, dude, my daughter would be so happy.
Right.
She's got a Nezuko cosplay that she wears. She's actually good. So whenever we go to the like Gamescom and stuff like that, I have to get her the swords. She collects the wooden the replica swords, cool. But she's well,
because this is the thing, and this is what I'd love to hear, your guys' opinion, right, from on the community side. Those of you guys that are watching, like, what are some collaborations that you're like, this isn't what I think they're probably thinking, but what if, and I think that's one of those ones where
somebody mentions Robin Hood, I'm out. Just saying.
Yeah. I was like, we have to get back to Robin.
I knew that was coming somehow, Sham. Like, you've been waiting for an hour to slip that in somehow.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. Well, so Sam, if you don't have like an additional one like outside, no worries. We just gotta have you back on the podcast. It's a required answer, so just get ready for it for the next one. But yeah, this has been amazing. That'll do it for us. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching and hanging out. This has been a podcast adventure. We gathered here. We joined everybody together. We talked through community, and we'll see you guys at the next one.